Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Administrative Committee today on Monday, February 24th, 2025. Let's jump in, shall we? All right. Do we need to select a committee chair and vice chair?
You do. So this will be the first meeting of admin since January's meeting was canceled due to lack of
really
agenda
on admin.
items.
Right. You're filling in for Gina.
Filling in for Gina.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
So we do need to have a chair and vice chair for the.
I'll make a suggestion. Mr. Blankenship be chair and I'll be vice chair since Gina's not here. We won't sign up for anything if that's.
That sounds great.
That sounds
I
good.
feel good about that.
I feel good, yeah.
Great. So moved.
So,
Wonderful. Item number 2, approval of administrative committee meeting from back in November. Again, a long time ago. Did you see any issues?
You know, I
with
feel
those?
that I haven't heard anything about them since November. I'm going to feel like they're good.
I briefly looked at it on Friday and there's nothing. So
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah,
moving
thought
forward.
the same. Great. All right, let's talk about Earth Day, shall we? Earth Day celebration alcohol use request in East City Park. Amanda Argona, hello.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So in your packets is standard operating procedure, alcohol use request in city parks. It's something that's normally a prohibited activity, but this is an event that is now in its fourth year. Thank you, Stevie. Hosted by Inland North Waste. So they are requesting a beer and wine garden, estimated to be about 25 feet by 25 feet in size. With one licensed beer and wine vendor. So we've drafted a resolution for your review. It's been reviewed by legal and is here for your consideration. The applicant's also here to answer any questions about the event. I'm here to answer any process questions.
I saw just in years past, there's nothing different that the applicant's doing. It's pretty straightforward what they've been doing for the last 4 years. I see no concerns.
Great.
I have no
Sandra?
concerns.
I think we just put it on consent agenda
Sounds
and
good
look forward to go Earth Day. See y'all
Yeah.
there.
Any new additions coming up to like the vehicles out there?
It's exciting, though. Great. Amanda, do you want to stay put and tell us about the new
Yes.
2025 Moscow Farmers Market Handbook?
Yes, I'd love to.
Great.
This is an annual thing that we come to admin committee before council, where we look at revisions, make sure the handbook is staying up to date with what's happening on the ground, along with other policies, vision, that sort of thing. But the main goals of the policy subcommittee, who review the handbook first before they take their recommendations to Farmers Market Commission, before those recommendations come here, keep the policies aligned with the mission and vision of the Moscow Farmers Market, eliminate and remove redundancy, clarify and explicitly state policies when they're not, and then discuss any revisions or additions. This year's subcommittee meeting was 4 members, Joshua Larson, JT Manning, Philip Blankenship, and Gerardo Alvarez. And they all did an additional 10 hours on top of their normal commission meeting requirements. But we got down to 2 meetings this year instead of 3, which is always exciting. But this process really does start for us in November. And so it can be anywhere from a 3 to 5 month process. So if people are like, what do those people do when market's not happening? Policies, that's what we do. And so the commission itself took 2 reviews. They do report outs December 2nd and January 7th. This is a new look for the handbook this year. Will be red themed. We try and change it up every year so the vendors know whether or not they have a current handbook or an old handbook that they're referring to. And what you guys got in your packets was this very hefty document. And what we do at this meeting today, for those of you that are relatively new to this, is we kind of parse out what actually got changed so you don't have to compare and contrast between old handbook and new handbook. The first item is in our definition of terms. So we actually have a one pager of definition of terms that we like to use when we're referring throughout the handbook. And we just kind of adapted where we're getting these trends and best practices from. Sometimes we use the straight definition, or sometimes we look at a definition from several sources and then adapt something that meets the market's needs. This is pretty straightforward, but just letting you know, we reference things like American Farmland Trust, Certified Naturally Grown, which is a third-party certification that some of our growers go through, Farmers Market Coalition, which we're a member of, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, so on and so forth. We did want to take a stab at limiting the use of AI in the marketplace. We've had about 2 seasons now where we've seen AI design come through the craft and food jury process. The commission has discussed this at length, and we really want to emphasize human imagination and one's own ideas when we're referring to what do we mean by handmade. So we added those items into the definition of handmade. Regenerative agriculture is the new buzzword. Some of you may have heard it if you are in those circles, but we're also seeing it's being used more and more when we go to visit these agricultural operations. It's a requirement that we visit through a site visit all of these folks that want to come to market. And because there actually is no it doesn't have a definition like organic that has a standard through USDA. And so the commission took some time to adopt a definition for our purposes with the idea that we may make modifications in future years, since this is the first time we're adopting a regenerative ag definition.
Did that take a while?
We looked through several sources, but I think it didn't take as long as it could have.
Oh, good. Great.
So this is a new item that is going in, so you have nothing to reference prior. We're also adding another new vendor subcategory, seafood. There was some philosophical debate about whether or not this should be seafood versus fish versus river products. We don't know. So we're running with seafood. But the idea is that we have folks that have been interested in bringing salmon to the market. How do we make that work with our 200 air mile radius requirement that all products are made, grown, produced within a 200 air mile radius? So this would exclude things like Alaskan salmon, but could potentially allow for salmon that is landlocked or is coming back. So the idea is being that they're coming specifically from Pacific Northwest waters in the following states, still adhering to that 200 air mile radius. And of course, vegetation, such as, I don't know, river seaweed, I don't know.
Sure.
So we just ran the gamut.
Okay.
Prepared food vendor definition subcategories. This is the original here. And what the revised looks like is we wanted to actually change the main title and align it more with our craft artisan. So rather than say prepared food vendors, we will now be saying food artisan vendors. And we also wanted to get back to this idea of hand making items, traditional cooking methods, limited quantities. So we felt that that was really important to get back to this idea of what do we mean by food artisan at the market. And then we did just make some slight adjustments in the specialty foods subcategory. We just added smoked cured meats and or cheeses just to provide a little bit more breadth into the idea of what we're talking about, the types of items that we're talking about. But pretty minor changes overall. Craft vendor definition, we just struck a bunch of stuff that we realized was actually already kind of going through implementation with our craft and food jury process. So should we find items like trace by number, paint by number at the craft and food jury, those items in and of themselves would be nixed. So we just thought that was redundant, unnecessary, and so pretty straightforward and saved us some lines in the handbook. Vendor operating policies. We had questions about whether or not people could bring like
course you
their guard dogs to the market and sell them and that sort of thing. And so live animals, no, we just made it very clear, very explicit. However, we do recognize that there are vendors that offer these products as part of their normal business operations. So you have a few agricultural vendor operations that offer cuts of meat, animal feed, guard dogs. They are allowed to advertise that, but they cannot actually like bring the live animals to the market and sell them there. And again, it's in a very limited scope. So if I'm a craft vendor, I can't be like, my kitty just had a bunch of kittens and I want to sell them.
Right.
That would not be permitted. So we just wanted to make that very, very clear. We made some updates to our vendor space assessment, added the word audit in there, and made it very clear about what these assessments and audits are for. As our market becomes more and more popular, as it becomes larger, we need to make sure that we're maintaining the transparency and authenticity of the market. So if someone juries in with specific claims or is making specific claims at a site visit, we want to make sure those claims are being upheld on a given Saturday during market season.
I'm sure that's something that continues to get pushed and pushed all the time, doesn't it?
It can,
Yeah.
depending on the product. What we're seeing more is in the local sourcing with our food artisan vendors.
Yeah.
Mhm. Appendix 6 had a lot of changes if you were to compare, but it's mostly formatting changes. And we broke it down into like a 3-step process of what it actually means to become an approved vendor with the market. So you have your eligibility, where we specifically state no franchises, no MLM companies, and no retail chains are eligible to participate. We've had some questions about that in the past. And then we have a qualification period and then the approval process. So what does it actually mean to go from I'm eligible to approved? And we think this is going to make things a lot more clear, especially for people who are looking to join the farmers market, and hopefully limit the number of emails coming to mine and Laura's inbox. And then lastly, some considerations for 2026. We had looked at making some changes to economic opportunity core value, specifically looking at adding in language of supporting minority-owned businesses. We had really robust discussion, and the commission feels like they would like to take this year to really look at what they mean by adding in potentially new verbiage into this core value. Some terms that came up were underserved communities, resource limited individuals. And then the other consideration that the policy subcommittee would like to look at is our penalties framework, and actually maybe creating stiffer penalties for vendors who don't follow the handbook. So we'll be assessing that for this upcoming year. But we really try and be transparent in this process. And so once the commission has kind of come together with a final draft, those items go out to vendors for review for a month. This year, we got feedback from 3 vendors specifically, 2 craft vendors and an agricultural vendor. Those meetings are open, as you all know, to the public, and we encourage the vendors to attend. And I think we try and be really transparent in this process, provide lots of opportunity for feedback. And when we come to you, we hope we've done all the legwork, that you have no questions, and that it can move forward. But happy to answer any questions, should there be some.
Drew or Sandra?
Good.
Yeah, so I sit on this commission now. Been to one meeting, and they know their stuff. You guys know your stuff very well, and I'm just really impressed. I watched on Netflix. I was talking about Netflix earlier, on regenerative agriculture. So that was pretty interesting. I felt like I had a knowledge gap, and I still do, but at least I kind of know what people are talking about now when I'm in a meeting. But yeah, really impressed, and I'm looking forward to this coming to council. So
Yeah, my only question is, and it's kind of the standard one that I asked, were you surprised by anything that came up either from your commissioner or vendors this year?
I think, we're always surprised to hear whenever a vendor takes the time to write a very thought out email. I love that.
Yeah.
And we have a very large vendor roster. So while we don't hear from a lot of our vendors. I feel like when they put forward the time to address the commission, that carries a lot of weight with
Yeah.
it. I always appreciate when things aren't clear to people. Laura and I live and breathe this policy. The commission, puts it together. And so we often have a blind spot. And so always having a fresh set of eyes. But no, I think the feedback I got from the respective people, nothing was out of the ordinary. And 90% of what we had recommended was approved, no problem. And I think once vendors also get the clarity that they're seeking, that often assuages any concerns or issues.
Did they like the addition of, I can't think of that street, but you know the street I'm talking
Fourth?
about?
Oh, 4th Street.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if they did. It made my job slightly
Yeah,
easier.
yeah. I just wondered if you'd heard
Which
things from
we
your
like,
vendors,
which
either
we
yay or nay, or.
I think it was its first season.
Yeah.
Vendor, whenever you're developing a new zone of the market, it takes a while for the public to get trained to go down that way. So there were some slow parts to the market season. Vendor feedback is always welcome. But I think once people know that you're there, that's your spot, or that you tend to get in that zone, they'll come back to you. So yeah, I think we're going to try and develop some signage.
Yeah,
But,
great.
Yeah, I think tell everyone to go check out Beyond the Fountain when you have friends and family in town. So
Thanks,
And,
Amanda.
and then I think my one question back from when you started, is there anything that you've done to address some of the AI usage already, or just kind of like catching what you're seeing so far to address down the line?
I would say the largest policy inclusion, I think it was first implemented last year, maybe in 2023. We put in like a copyright licensing. So we put in a broad statement that's like everyone must adhere to U.S. federal laws and state regulation and all those good things. But we did say including copyright law. So that is something that we're just wanting to be very mindful about. It's why you won't see a tea cozy with the Seattle Seahawks print on it at the market, is because there are copyright laws regarding taking that material and then selling it. You can take that material and give it away to a friend or a neighbor, but then to make sales off of the licensed trademarked characters is so I would say that was the first step. And then I think then the question comes down to when we have people who are doing fan art and then using the AI, that's kind of starts to broach into that naturally. But this is kind of our first foray into saying no to AI. And then the other one would be the commission did put in a line you'll have to forgive me because
You're good.
I believe 2 years ago now, potentially 1 year ago, with the farmers market poster artwork call, where we said no AI submissions. That's kind of on the honesty policy.
Sure.
Yeah.
So these are sort of our first dipping our toes into the AI waters.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
All right,
Appreciate
that's
that.
smart.
Anything else? No?
Great work.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Let's,
Oh, but yeah, that's true.
can we put that on consent? Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
When's the first market?
May 3rd.
Coming up. Feels markety outside today, even almost. Bob, hello. Number 5, the Camas Street Water Main Project bid results and contract award. Hello, Bob.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, let's talk about some water main project.
Let's do it.
To give a little bit of background on the project, the blue line, it represents lines that'll be replaced with this project, roughly going from Harold Street heading north up to 7th Street. Originally, the project didn't include much along Harold or Joseph Street, but we are part of this project now. After talking a little bit more with the water department, we are going to do this stub out to Harold Street, which will tie into Mountain View, and this little stub here will actually come out and attach to connect into Mountain View as well. So a little bit of scope creep as we went through the design process. So January 25th, we opened bids. We got 9 bids. Those bids ranged from $609,000 to $973,000. Pretty decent range there. Our engineer's estimate, once we were done with the design, we came in at about $139,000 for our estimate, and the budget in the CIP was $946,000. We did end up updating this budget about a year before we got into the design. So we ended up having to go in and update some of the CIP stuff to reflect some of our new construction numbers, and so we did beef up a lot of these budget numbers. Actually, I'm gonna go back. Let's see. Accelerated construction was the apparent low bid for the project with $609,543. It's a contractor we have not worked with yet. They're out of DeSmet, Idaho. I'm hope I'm saying
No,
it.
you're saying it right. I just, it's, I learn something every day. So.
Yeah. So he did show up to the bid opening. I've had several conversations with their office manager. They didn't have much for information on their website about previous projects, but we'll give them a shot and see how it goes. We've had luck with some of these unknown contractors before, so. Our recommendation is that we award the contract to Accelerated Construction in the amount of $609,543. Does anybody have any questions?
Bob, will you be seeking additional authority for change orders?
Yes, we will be. We will be seeking additional authority for change orders in the amount or 10% of the original contract.
Okay, so that was a question I did have, and I think I'm understanding it. This isn't like I never try to do like gotcha questions or anything like that. But so let's say that they get into this and they get to Joseph Street and they need to, so it'll have to be coming back. Will council be approving change orders? Will be notified somehow if it doesn't exceed the 10%.
If it exceeds the 10%, I will come back to council and request permission to exceed that 10% threshold.
Yeah, because even if it does exceed that 10, with the estimate that was provided going out to this, we're well underneath that cost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but significantly, which is great. Like, this is a good thing for the 2 people listening online and people in the crowd. It probably knows this is a good thing. So,
Any idea why it's such a difference? That always makes me nervous when I see that much of a difference. Any thoughts on that?
We get asked this question a lot, and it's hard. It's hard to unless you start getting comments from the contractors. It's hard to give good answers. I did notice that a lot of the higher projects, the higher bid numbers, the traffic control was pretty significant in their bid number. But even the pipe unit price was kind of all over the place. It's just it's hard to tell unless you actually get a contractor that says, "Hey, I didn't like this part, so I threw a big number at it."
If you look at the bid tabulation, 5 of the 9 bidders were all under 650,000.
Yeah.
So it was consistent across multiple bidders that they were substantially less than our estimate. And I'm assuming that our estimates have been inflated a bit recently due to some of the higher numbers we've seen.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just seeing that market kind of come back down.
No, that's great.
And I think
Thanks.
too, it helps, and maybe this is just pure assumption, but we got it out on a good time too, to get it plugged into play. I just know from my perspective, if you get out before, I don't know when it went out to bid. I mean, I could find it, but the 25th, yeah, that's a good time for contractors to get it into schedule.
Mhm.
And if it's past, like, first quarter, then that's when they really like to add on a couple zeros to anything.
The timing of the bidding could definitely have something to do with that. I think another element of it is we seem to be like attracting contractors from outside of our normal our normal contractors that we see here in the Quad Cities, and so I think that could also be an element of it too.
Yeah, I think my only question, but you've already mostly addressed it, and I don't know if there's much more to speak to it, but just the either excitement or nervousness working with a new contractor, right? And yeah, but if you're having good communications with them thus far and feel good about the project moving forward, like the price tag is very favorable.
Yeah, it's not outside of the realm of what a lot, a decent number of the other contractors. So I don't think that they had a significant, error in their bid somewhere that we'll run into down the road. But
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Great.
hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
It's the procurement policies and stuff like that. It makes it pretty tough to not go with the low bid. You got to have a pretty significant reason
Why?
not to.
Yeah. Great. Anything else?
No,
No?
I guess I'd recommend acceptance of the bid from Accelerated Construction. Contract amount of $609,543 and authorized staff approval of construction change orders in the amount not to exceed 10% of the contract amount.
Great. Drew?
Aye, yeah.
Great. Yeah,
Consent?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 6, C Street frontage improvements, bid results and contract award. Scott, hello. Good afternoon.
So next one on the list here.
Changing seats. I like you shaking it up. You know,
Gotta get this one warm. So rough idea of where this project's located up here. This is basically the south end, the frontage improvements at the Moscow Recycling Center. Kind of can see it in the red up here. So the idea of this project is pretty much to match the frontage improvements that's reflected there on the south side of C Street at the Lightcast building there. Pictures aren't huge, but you can kind of see the difference of, well, the existing conditions here, but you can see the side here that has all the curb gutter sidewalk, the historical style lights, the tree grates, compared to the side that's just the curb with the dirt, grass.
It's nice dirt, though.
Yeah. So a rough overview kind of C Street improvements here is the curb and gutter is going to move a little bit further north. We're going to add in widened sidewalks, so 10 foot wide through the area, kind of matches the downtown zone type feel. The illumination system will be that same historical style lights that we've been running everywhere. Going to add fencing around the whole thing and then add in the tree and the tree grates that we have that has their component to it, and a drip irrigation system for the new trees that we planted here. So pretty much meeting all the guidelines and the normal stuff we do through the downtown area. So just again, kind of what it was versus what it's going to look like. So we ended up getting in 5 bids on this one. Bids opened on February 11th. Same type of thing. We're getting in more bids than we expect on a lot of the stuff that's been coming in. But the bids range from $290,982 to $422,277. The engineer's estimate on this one was $299,497, so kind of right in there. ML Albright, the one that gave the lowest bid of $290, they're a contractor we work with every year on all kinds of stuff. They're a great contractor to work with. Some of these other ones are more of the contractors, again, coming from out of town. Granite from Yakima, Big Sky from up north. Knife River is all over the country. Le Riviere, they've worked on some projects here, but they're from further up north too. So ML Albright doesn't have a whole lot of mobilization on coming up. They're already got projects going on and everything. So
Are they down in the valley? Is that
Yeah.
what I read? Yeah.
great contractor. So staff recommends acceptance of the low bid from M. Albright and Sons, awarding the contract and base bid in the amount of $290,982,000 and authorizing staff approval of construction change orders in an amount not to exceed 10%.
It's going to look nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll be nice. I go through there a lot.
be a nice addition.
Yeah, well,
And it's pretty well lit through there, but I mean, definitely even more lighting through that corridor and everything.
Drew?
Yeah. So on this, it would be the east south kind of corner of that. Cars will park there. Is there a I guess, are they going to be coming through? How?
can speak to that if you want. We operate the recycling.
Well, just have Scott
You
answer
gotta
that
come up here
question.
though.
Yeah, if you don't mind, come up to the microphone.
Yeah, well, I guess
Bring a little map back up here.
It's not a concern. It's just more curiosity.
So right now on this road, there are multiple places to pull in to the facility. A lot of people use that corner to pull in, which I don't believe you should actually do, but people do it. And right now, who parks there are people who are using the facilities across the street and also our employees. So it's going to be great to get that fenced in. Because our employees can just go behind the fence. And then also to the left, which goes up toward the yard waste facility, because that's a known kind of danger when you're dropping off yard waste.
That's on Almond.
Yeah, on Almond right there. We're going to put signs in there for, hey, slow down. We've worked with Tyler Palmer and he's agreed, let's put some signs in there. So it will condense traffic to go through the front of the recycling center, or like our heavy trucks doing the recycling or yard waste will approach from Almond Street and then go across over to Jackson.
So on Jackson and C, the initial question where the cardboard places are laid out that you move kind of throughout there where you can kind of pull the side, that's just going to be reoriented somehow.
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Just a curiosity more
Great.
than anything.
Thank you.
Yay, that's great. Thanks, Stevie.
Yeah, so I live about 2 blocks from there. I live just right up at the top of C Street, at Lillian C, right where it tees. And so I often walk down C Street, and I often have this dilemma of either crossing the street to walk on the sidewalk next to Lightcast or just walking through the gravel. So I'll be excited to have a sidewalk. So a little selfish here, but more importantly, pleased that this came under, about $9,000 under the estimated bid, and that's great to fall in line with the previous agenda item as well.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
This is great. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Go consent.
Sure.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And then item number 7, Rural and Tribal Assistant Pilot Program Grant Request with Alyssa Anderson and Scott again. So good afternoon.
So this is a new grant program, a federal grant opportunity that we haven't applied for in the past. They did run a program last year, but this year they had a lot more funding in it. Last year it was like $10 million for the whole program. It's rural or tribal, so we fit under that rural category still, so that's nice. And it's allowing for design, which is not something we see a lot of, so preliminary design. So looking at a project that we've suggested on the Palouse River corridor is a good fit for all of the guidelines under this program. And it also is a program that doesn't require match. And so it's a good fit for us right now. And this corridor is certainly one that's growing, and being able to get started on that preliminary design and taking a look at it. The parameters would be starting at Highway 8 and Mountain View and going down then to Palouse River Drive, and then moving all the way across Highway 95 down to the city limits, which is near the Sand Road Bridge. I'll let Scott kind of go into more of the details of this. Part of the application process, as you read in the staff report, it's a first come, first serve. I've never seen that before. So Jennifer Fleshman is like the lightning speed typer in our office. So she'll be doing they open the portal at 2 p.m. We'll be ready to go. And it's basically cut, paste, submit as fast as you can. So
And what was the date on that? I remember reading it.
it's March 4th.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. at
Thank
2
you.
p.m.
March Madness.
And it
Different
says,
time, yeah.
it says first come, first serve, but there are eligibility criteria. And in the fine print of the NOFA, they do have some funding allocation, no more than a certain percentage can go to one state. So those types of things. For the rural single project, it's $10 million. So, you know,
Go Jennifer.
it's worth a shot. So I think we'll do it. So I included a staff report in there regarding what the project would look like, and Scott can go into a little more detail on that. And then after we do that, we can come back and see if you have any more questions.
Great.
Just a rough idea of the scope here, starting up at Highway 8. Right now, pretty much all the fringe improvements are done along the west side, so we'll be looking along the east side. And for the most part, through the corridor, this is going to be kind of what we call like a notch and widen project where it's more of like getting to full arterial standard by cutting in, widening the road, adding curb gutter sidewalk in the green strips along through here. We'll also have the consultant, if awarded, look at doing a potential roundabout there at the intersection of Palouse River Drive and Highway 8, at least conceptual level, so we know what we may need to purchase for future right-of-way to be able to put one in eventually. And then continuing along Palouse River Drive, least looking for now doing curb gutter sidewalk along the north side. The south side is mostly county along there. We'll have to look into what right-of-way needs would be along there. Continuing along to have that full fringe improvements all the way down. And then more recently, we were able to get a lot of that installed on the south side heading west to Highway 95, but there's definitely gaps still on the north side. And then everything along through the ball fields portion of our property through there, out to the new bridge that will be installed as part of the Lily Bridge program that we have for the bridge that will be getting put in out there. And along the way too, we'll be having them look at where the Blaine Street intersection will be tying in eventually as part of that development. Just make sure we have everything set up for that. Have them checking the intersection there at US 95, make sure we have clearances for various things. And then looking at the potential of adding bus stops along the corridor for potential future use.
So part of this program is basically setting you up to be able to then apply for some of the larger RAISE or BRIC or some of those additional funding programs. So this is the first step. If you get awarded for this, you have, a really good likelihood of being able to then apply for one of those larger programs. And that really, in order for us to do this project in maybe 2 phases, that would be our only other opportunity. It would take us several TAP projects or those types of things to get this completed. So this would be, a magnificent opportunity for us to be able to, fund this. They offer from a time of award, 36 months to complete the project. So that's, a good period of time. If we were awarded, we would probably, select a design consultant sometime in the spring or so. Yeah. We will include in the grant application a bit of an in-kind contribution. Scott and I need to kind of figure that out. Just they ask you like, what are the project costs and what are you contributing? So we want to show that we have some contribution to it for the administration. Some of the questions in the application, they ask things like, what is your federal funding history and have you ever had a debarment or any issues? And so we have a very good history. Very good single audit record for the last 20 years. And so there's just 3 questions regarding criteria that we'll be answering. It's like a 6-page fill in the blank. The boxes are like no more than 40 characters per box or word. So it's relatively simple. We're estimating that the preliminary design would not be more than 600,000. So we're asking for that. We're right now rated at about 570, 80,000 with what we're looking at. So we're recommending or requesting your approval to submit a grant application for the Rural and Tribal Assistance Pilot Program for preliminary engineering and design for the project we're now calling Palouse River Drive Corridor Multimodal Improvements in an amount not to exceed 600,000. Entertain your questions.
Sandra or Drew?
I can't see why we wouldn't do this.
So
You know, you go for it.
So I'm going to preface my comment question by saying that I am excited about applying for this, but and I'm excited for the work that you all have done to find it, and will do to be in that competitive space. Hopefully, given what we're seeing at the federal level with lots of cuts financially across the board with lots of different agencies, is there any worry that were we to get granted part of this, that halfway through that funding gets rescinded or anything like that, or does it feel pretty confident to?
I myself have
Secure.
been, watching on a daily basis on several media sites, our own AIC and ITD, LTAC. I look at probably 10 sites a day, just checking. This type of project falls within what the new administration wants to fund. And I don't see that with these types of infrastructure projects that they'll be cutting back funding. I actually watched a webinar last week, and it was from the National Endowment of the Arts. Those projects are also being supported, and those grant programs are moving forward. So I don't see this type of a project. Had there been a problem, I think they would have pulled the notice of funding availability right after the first of the year, and that's not happened. I haven't seen any programs that I know are coming up have been pulled. So
Great. Yeah, and I looked up, after I read through this in the packet, I looked up some of the appointments of people that were higher up in the Department of Transportation, and some were appointed back in 2019 by the current president. And so having, I think, that continues means that to feel good about potentially this funding not being cut. Right.
And the American League of Cities also did a real good write-up on just this program, and that it was one that was, part of the new administration's recommendation to move forward. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The only question I had after talking, well, one, thank you. I think it's exciting for a variety of reasons. But Scott, what are you thinking? And I know this gauge can move as money comes in, right? I totally get that. But from like a percentage, like, are we talking about 50% design? Are we talking 100% design on that quarter? What do you, and I don't have an opinion on it. I'm just more curious.
For the 600,000 we're requesting, it's probably for preliminary going to be somewhere between that 30 and 50% design. Depends upon the negotiations we have. We've typically been paying about $100 a foot for consulting fees on various things.
Pretty good.
It's getting more as we go on. So, and it depends upon the complexities. This one's going to have a lot of right away. It's community. I mean, it's got a lot more stuff to it, full environmental and everything. So this might end up being more along the range of that 125, 130 a foot type. So,
Gotcha. And I'm sure depending on how I mean, I know they can go all over the board.
Yeah.
So, and I know you know that too. But what are we thinking of starting east and going west to address those things, or is it just what do you feel is the most pertinent for design along there?
the portions for this that I would think would need it the most would be starting on the east and working west. We have a lot of other things we're looking at for the west right now as well.
Right, with
we can kinda parcel out,
WashDOT and stuff coming together. Yeah.
There's a lot of different studies going on which seem to want to tie in all the stuff west of Highway 95.
Okay.
The programs that are the next step up from this that it talks about in the NOFA, the RAISE and those different programs, most of those usually also do fund final design and
Okay.
construction. So it's a
It
blended
kind of
tie-in,
builds
and
like
that's
foundation and
yeah.
Okay,
So
no,
this
that's-
is really helping the more rural communities and tribal communities be able to compete for those larger awards.
I think this is great. I'm excited. That area is growing. So yeah.
I take that road all the time. It's scary at night. I mean, it is so hard to see. I mean, and it's narrow. So if we can get anything from this and improve it, that would be amazing because it's
dark
really,
too.
it's
Yeah.
tough.
And as it grows, the potential with bus stops seems
Yeah.
really exciting too, just to have more accessibility in that part of town. So
Cool.
anything else?
Good luck.
Yeah, great luck. Report back.
Approving consent.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Anything else?
Bill?
Bill, anything
Nope.
from staff?
Nothing for staff.
Great. Should we adjourn?
Adjourned.
Adjourned.
Yes.